This is Algebra 2. We're on Lesson 2-4. We don't have a warm-up today because today is Friday, October 26th, and we don't have very much time in class. The reason I am so quiet right now is because I'm recording this at 3:17 in the morning, and my family is asleep, so I'm extra quiet to make sure I don't wake them up. Alright, so let's start off with some review. If I have I, what is the definition of I? I is equal to what? And if you're saying it's the square root of -1, you have the definition correct. And knowing this, you should know what I squared is. In fact, you should know what I cubed and I to the 4th power is, because those you need to have memorized. I squared is therefore, yep, you guys have it, it is -1. Alright, so on Lesson 2-3, I kind of informally talked about the similarity to polynomial addition. Now I'm explicitly showing you how that polynomial multiplication looks like our complex multiplication. So you already know how to do this. When I have this polynomial -3 multiplied by this binomial, I just distribute this 3 into the 5. I distribute that -3 into the -6. So remember to keep the sign in front. -3 times a 5 is a -15, and a -3 times a -6 is a positive 18x. Well, let's look how that applies when I'm doing complex numbers. It's the same thing. -3 times 5 is a -15. -3 times a -6i is a positive 18i instead of x. Alright, what I want you to do is try to do this next one. 6x times 2x minus 7. I know you know how to do that. Pause the video now, do this one. Go ahead and attempt this one. This one's going to be a little bit different though. Okay, you have unpaused the video. So 6x times 2x is going to be a 12x squared. And then a 6x times a -7 is a -42x. It's very similar when I'm doing complex numbers. 6i times 2i is a 12i squared, and a 6i times -7 is a -42i. The difference here is I can never have an I squared or an I cubed or I to any other power aside from 1 in my final answer. So I need to somehow simplify I squared. Oh look, Mr. Sindel helped you review I squared in case you didn't remember. I squared is -1. So this I squared is now a -1. So -1 times 12 minus 42i turns into a -12 minus 42i. Now I have simplified this complex number so that it's actually in the a plus bi form. Alright, so that's the key difference here. Let's go to binomial multiplication. So this one might be a little bit harder for you to remember, but I'll give you a hint before you pause the video. FOIL. Go ahead and pause the video now. Alright, you've unpaused the video. FOIL stands for first, outer, inner, last. So first is going to be 10x. Outer is going to be 2x times this -4x, which is going to be a -8x squared. FOI, I is inner. -3 times 5 is a -15, and last is going to be that -3 times this -4x, which is going to be a positive 12x. And then you'd have to simplify this, right? So you'd have to combine like terms. This 10x and 12x combined at 22x, and you'd have a -8x squared plus 22x minus 15. Alright, it's going to be very similar to this one. Again, I want you to pause the video, do this. In fact, you could probably just copy down the -8x squared plus 22x minus 15, but replace the x's with i's, and then simplify. You can't have any I squares in there. Go ahead and do that now. Alright, you've unpaused the video now. So I'm just going to start right here and start with a -8i squared plus 22i minus 15, and I know that I can't have an I squared. This is actually a -1. And then I'm going to copy down the rest of the problem. I have a -8 plus 22i minus 15. Now this is going to be a positive 9, or positive 8, sorry about that, positive 8 plus 22i minus 15. But now I can combine like terms, 8 and this -15, that forms a -7. negative 7. Am I doing my math right here? I am, okay. Plus 22i. Okay, so we've seen how to do this. You know how to do these examples then. How many examples do we have? We just have these 2 examples, and then you're ready to go to Khan Academy. This first example is half of the homework. This second example is the second half of the homework. The first half is just doing one number times a binomial. The second half of the homework is multiplying 2 binomials. So pause the video now, try example 1. Alright, you've unpaused the video. Let's go ahead and do this thing. Negative 7i times 4 is a negative 28i, and then a negative 7i times a negative 8i. Negative times a negative is a positive. 7 times 8 is 56. I times I is I squared. Again, I can't have an I squared, so that's going to be a negative 1 here. So this is negative 1 times 56 minus 28i. It's going to be added to this, so that means my final answer in a plus bi form, that's the form that they always ask for it, so it's going to be a plus bi, which means the imaginary part is going to be second. This is going to be rewritten as negative 56 minus 28i. Very nice. And since this is our actual example, do be boxing your answers. I guess we should have done that in our problems up here, but that's okay. Alright, pause the video, do example 2. You've unpaused the video, so again, you're going to be foiling, so 5 times 7 is 35, 5 times 8 is 40i, plus 40i, negative 6i times 7 is a negative 42i, and negative 6i times 8i, that's going to be a negative 6 times 8 is 48i squared. Alright, so from here I need to get rid of that I squared. Remember, this I squared turns into a negative 1, so that's going to be a positive 48 there. So if it's a positive 48 plus 35, I'm going to have a 3 here and an 8 here, so it's 83, and then this is going to simplify to negative 2i and box my final answer. Alright, that concludes the notes. Go ahead and write your summaries. Something maybe about how you can't have an I squared in your final answer because you have to have it in a plus bi form. Once you finish your summary, you can begin on the Khan Academy assignment.